¿Preguntas? ¿Comentarios? ¿Sugerencias? Gracias, Eduardo.
Thank you, Andrew. Still no magic bullets, no? Cambiar la práctica clínica es algo tan complicado como cambiar el comportamiento humano, ¿no? Y a pesar de que se van haciendo cada vez más estudios, cada vez más evidencia, pero realmente no avanzamos mucho más allá de lo difícil y complejo que es y cómo se puede estructurar un proceso de cambio, ¿no? Que realmente para las personas que están desarrollando un proyecto de implementación de una guía o que están pensando en cómo producir cambios reales en la práctica, ¿cuáles serían los principales consejos, ¿no? ¿Qué cosas de manera estructurada habría que tener en cuenta?
So you're absolutely right. Changing clinical behavior is not easy. And I think the first step is recognizing that we are trying to change behavior and it's a difficult thing to do, and so we shouldn't anticipate dramatic effects. I think logically the most promising approach to doing this is to use what I've referred to as tailored implementation. And the logic there is that the reasons why people aren't adhering to recommendations vary. And it varies from recommendation to recommendation. And so it's logical that the strategies we use should take account of the specific barriers or facilitators for making change that are identified in relationship to a particular recommendation. And the evidence from the systematic review of tailored interventions says that tailored interventions work better than nothing, but we're lacking evidence that they work better than simply saying we're going to use audit and feedback or use educational meetings. And there's two major challenges that we tried to address in the TICD project that we made a start on, but there's still a long way to go. The first is we're really not sure how to identify what the most important barriers and facilitators are. So as part of that project, we compared different methods, and I think we made some progress in mapping out what are likely to be effective and efficient methods to figure out what the most important barriers and facilitators are. Where I think we probably made a lot less project is once you've done that, how do you pick which intervention is best suited to address those? And that's where something like Susan Michie's wheel of implementation or change comes in, where that's still largely theory-based and not based on a lot of empirical evidence. But I think over time, that's what we need to learn better how to do, is match interventions to identified barriers and facilitators. So that's the logical way to go. The problem is we still don't know very much about how to do that effectively.
¿Crees que la efectividad de las intervenciones es muy contexto dependiente? Depende mucho en cada situación que se plantea una misma intervención, aunque sea audit y feedback o puede ser educativa, puede funcionar de una manera muy distinta, puesto que el contexto es distinto y puede ocurrir también que las motivaciones de los profesionales sean distintas, los recursos disponibles sean distintos y la teoría sobre la que se sustenta el cambio que pensamos que va a producir un efecto puede ser perfectamente aplicable en un sitio y en otro no. Quizás pueda haber parte de esas grandes variaciones en los efectos que encontramos en los estudios. ¿Qué piensan?
Firstly, I think for any particular problem, context is always important across contexts is going to be important. So for example, audit and feedback isn't going to be helpful if the reason people aren't using cognitive behavioral therapy is because they don't have access to people with those skills. Then giving people feedback that they're not doing what they know already they're not doing isn't going to be helpful. So there's some very logical reasons for not expecting certain types of interventions to work once you've identified what the barriers are that are keeping people from doing what you'd like them to do. That said, I think that the extent to which the barriers and facilitators vary from setting to setting is unknown. I think sometimes that is going to be an issue, and there's a lot of discussion amongst people who are focusing on how to do tailored implementation, whether tailored implementation should refer to implementation strategies where what you do is actually tailored to those contexts, or whether it's coming up with a broad strategy that's designed to address barriers and facilitators across areas. So for example, one way of tailoring what you do to specific practices is using an intervention or delivering the intervention through something like outreach visits, where you can then quickly, through dialogue with the clinicians, figure out what the particular challenges are in a particular clinic and adapt what you present and what you do, how you use that time to that setting. So that would be not just tailoring on the broad level across settings, but tailoring what you do to a specific setting.
Sí. ¿Qué piensa de la efectividad? Ya sé que no hay mucha evidencia al respecto, ¿no? Pero quizá algunos tenemos en la cabeza la integración de las guías de práctica clínica, sobre todo aquellas recomendaciones más consistentes, en los propios sistemas de información de los centros sanitarios, bien sea hospitalario o en atención primaria, ¿no? Y la integración a través de algoritmos que lleguen al profesional de algún modo, ¿no? de modo electrónico. ¿Qué piensa usted de esa estrategia?
I think intuitively it makes sense that it will help to have evidence or recommendations that are directly linked to medical record system, so you have quick and easy access. It's logical. The evidence isn't there yet to support that, so the evidence is pretty limited about the effects of those strategies. The issue of reminders is more complex. We've done some trials ourselves of reminders, and both in the work we've done and what others have found is that clinicians get very tired of getting lots of reminders, so they'll just turn them off. So I think using tools where you're sort of pushing clinicians by forcing them to get reminders are going to have limited effects, only work in certain circumstances where they're not going to be annoying to clinicians. So I think these information systems linked to medical record systems are very promising and are likely to help, but the evidence isn't there yet, and reminders uncertain.
Pues aprovecho para darles las gracias tanto a Pablo como a Andrew, porque para mí ha sido una mesa excelente, pues presentaciones muy interesantes.